Hello, today we are going to be talking about water and why it's important. We will look at the molecule of water and how it's formed, and we will also look at some special properties of water. First, we'll look at the water molecule itself. You can see here that it is composed of three different atoms. We have here the oxygen atom, we have over here the hydrogen atom, and over here a hydrogen atom. So the water molecule, as you can see, is not straight across. It actually has this kind of triangle look to it, and if you were to flip this over, it would kind of look like a Mickey Mouse head. And one of the characteristics of water is that it is a polar molecule, meaning that we have a negative side and a positive side. And this occurs because of this formation. The hydrogen atoms kind of form down here to one end and leave this side a little bit more negative. That leaves this side a little more positive. I'll show you that on another picture. So first we're going to look at one of the properties of water, which is polarity. And this deals with that uneven distribution of charge, or the uneven distribution of hydrogens to oxygens. So water is H2O. We have two hydrogens to every one oxygen. And the hydrogens attach closer together on one end of the oxygen. That leaves that end more positive, and it leaves the oxygen end a little more negative. So polar molecules have this uneven distribution of charge, which allows them some special characteristics we'll look at on the next characteristic, or on the next slide. So here we are. Hydrogens look a little more positive, and the oxygen end is a little more negative. What this leads us to then is water being the universal solvent, which is water dissolves many things, especially in living organisms. It helps to dissolve a lot of the molecules that we take in that get digested. And within our cells, we need a good concentration of water, and we need to be hydrated to make sure that we have molecules passing back and forth and being able to be dissolved in the water. So the concept of like dissolves like is very important. Polar molecules will dissolve other polar molecules. Nonpolar molecules will dissolve other nonpolar molecules. However, polar molecules cannot dissolve nonpolar molecules. So again, polarity just means we have a charge on a charged molecule. It could be a charged atom. If it was an ion at one point, it could be a charged atom. But polar molecules have a charge, and nonpolar molecules are neutral. So if we look at some questions here, why don't oil and water mix? So hopefully we can come up with an answer with that. When you're looking at what we've already talked about, we have polar molecules again, and we have nonpolar molecules. So oil and water. In this case, water we already know is polar, and so we should be able to assume then that oil is nonpolar. So they don't mix. If we go back to the question, why can water dissolve sugar and salt? We could have then assume that because water is polar and it can dissolve sugar and salt, that we are talking about polar or charged molecules and atoms. And then if we head back out to the final question, how does water dissolve a polar substance? You can look at the properties there and what will actually happen. The positive end of a water molecule will attract to the negative end of the substance. So positives attract negatives, and then the negative end of water attracts to the positive end of the substance. In this case, we have a positive end of water, which is a hydrogen end, will attract to, let's say, salt, which has sodium and chlorine. The positive end of water will attract to the chloride atom or chloride ion, and that chloride ion is negative, so it will kind of attract those chloride ions. The negative end of water, which is the oxygen side, will attract the sodium ions, the positives, the Na+. And when that happens, the salt will be dissolved into the water. It breaks that ionic bond and is dissolved. Okay, another property of water are the bonding properties, and hydrogen bonds are bonds between two water molecules. It is not the bond between hydrogen and oxygen of a water molecule, but it's between molecule 1 and molecule 2. It's building two different water molecules. These hydrogen bonds lead to a couple special properties. Cohesion, which is when like molecules are attracted to each other. So this would be two water molecules being attracted to each other. And adhesion, which is when we have unlike molecules being attracted to each other. So in this case, we would have maybe water being attracted to the surface of something. Maybe you have seen before water that seems to be defying gravity by hanging onto a gutter or hanging onto an overhang. Well, that water has adhesive properties where water is attracted to that other surface and will be able to attach there for a period of time. It may eventually fall as it gathers more water. And this is what that would appear like. Cohesion, two happy water molecules. Adhesion, a water molecule to something else, in this case a leaf. These two properties lead us to capillarity. This is also a special property of water where cohesion and adhesion work together. And basically what happens is it will help water to travel up a narrow tube. And think about where this would be important. It would be very important for plants to be able to take water and take it up against the force of gravity so that it can get to its tallest leaves and branches. And a picture of that is here. You can see the water is traveling up that tube. So there's adhesive properties of water against the surface of that tube, and then there's cohesive properties of the water to itself near the middle. And then the final piece for today is homeostasis. So homeostasis is our big word for the semester, and it just means stable internal environment. Water is a big key to a living thing being able to maintain homeostasis. As you can see before, capillarity is very important for plants to be able to maintain homeostasis. So that's cohesive and adhesive properties of water. But also one of the big parts about water is that it takes a large amount of energy to break water molecules. So to go from 1 degree of temperature, it takes a large amount of energy for water to change that degree. This is very important in living things. When living things are out in the world, in the regular environment, they're exposed to extreme temperatures of heat or cold. And the fact that we are made up of mainly water allows our bodies to maintain our normal temperature without having drastic changes inside of us. So as an example, if we were made up of something like oil, so vegetable oil, things like that boil quickly, and we went out on a really hot day, we would see little frying people, I guess. We would have lots of heat changes in a body. Whereas with water, our bodies are able to maintain that homeostasis, maintain that internal temperature better because water does not change temperature very easily. And this is one of the most important qualities of water, and this is why living things are made up of a lot of water. That is our presentation on Chapter 2, Section 3, and why water is important.